Are we human? Or are we dancers? Our signs are vital. Our hands are cold and we're on our knees begging for the answers. Are we human? Or are we dancers? They say it's a bad, bad ritual. Oh, it burns me till you're gone. Oh, I thought you were home. But hallelujah, now I know I am wholly on my own. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Wendy, for that beautiful, objective, and totally unbiased introduction. Thank you, Linda, for that beautiful reading. That is one of my favorites, and whenever I'm in the Tao Te Ching, I always read that page, no matter which other one I'm reading. Will you wait until your mud settles and clarity appears and rightness appears? I want to thank, I don't have time to thank everybody who is making this service possible, but thank you very much. I am so humbled to be here today. I feel like I'm standing on a beach in front of an ocean of love, and I'm feeling very small. Thank you so much. Thanks to Reverend Donald for inviting me here today. It was more of insisting, actually, than inviting, and now that I'm here, I see why. He just didn't want to follow Jarrett Burns. It's okay, Jarrett. Be awesome. Be awesome. We love you. You have become such a part of our community. And it would be very nice if there's some evening we could all get together and just hang out with you for a while. Yeah, maybe we can talk about that some more. Yeah? I'd show up for that. Let's see. I got a job to do. Our theme for March is busting out, and it's a celebration of spring. And it's that time where we experience the rejuvenation and the rebirth, and everything turns green and colors go crazy. And I am looking forward to all of that and the good things that are coming to all of us here and everywhere through this month. I want to lay a little foundation work, though, because as we approach spring, so often we have a high expectation for it, and we don't hold it in the grand picture of everything. If winter is the sickness, then spring is the cure. If winter is representing death and dormancy, spring is the rebirth and the resurrection. And there are actually 4 seasons, but they all fade in and they all fade out, except for this drastic change between winter and spring. And that's why I think we celebrate it so much. March comes in like a lion, goes out like a lamb. And in between time, it is just a big tug of war between winter and spring to see what's going to happen. Spring is not like Christmas. Christmas comes when it comes. It's the 25th of December, no matter what. Spring is back and forth, and it comes when it is ready and when it is time. And in the meantime, we're caught in this tug of war between what is and what will be. What we want and what is happening now, where we've been and where we've got to go. We got that going on. Then our careers are changing. We got that going on. We got our families going on. They're changing too. Mentally, I'm growing. Spiritually, I'm growing, and I can easily get lost in the motion of my life when I so value stability. So I love spring, but I like what George Santayana said. Being interested in the change of seasons is a happier state of mind than to be hopelessly in love with spring. I like that. And it is very nice if we could have that happier state. So as we get ready for all the growth and development and good things that are coming, nothing facilitates that better than a happier state of mind and a good attitude. And let this become a dance. I was caught up in the uncertainty of change about a year ago. And I went into meditation and I asked the universe, and if you ask, you'll receive, and I did. And I said, help me see change in a different way. Help me understand what I don't know because I don't like it. I'm the guy who will go into a restaurant and order the same thing for years. I love stability. I love permanence. And nothing stays that way. And so I have to adapt. And so I'm going to tell you what the universe told me. But a couple of things before that is how the universe speaks to us. The universe is unlimited in its capability and in its knowledge. Curt is not. And so when the universe wants to speak to me, it has to use what's already in my head. And that's where things get weird. Because there's not a lot up here to work with. There's really not. And the other thing is our brains are set up in a way that we see the things we see, we hear the things we hear, and other things we can be right next to, and we don't see and we don't hear them, and we have to have it presented several times before it clicks and comes into our consciousness and awareness. So it's very tough when we're getting a lesson from the universe to get that lesson in, because if the universe was to just say, here's your answer, well, we would neglect it and reject it with every other piece of new information that we give. That would be our tendency. And so I'm asking the universe, and I said, would you please show me a better way? Would you please show me the solution? And I got, it seems easy for me. I don't stand up here. The universe talks to all of us. I know that, and you know that. It's just when the universe speaks to me, it has to speak really slow. So sometimes it's a little easier for me, and sometimes we just use pictures. And, we went, and so boom, I got 2 pictures. And I wanted to know about change and how to handle change and how to receive change. And I got 2 pictures, and the first one was a picture of cherry blossoms, a cherry tree with the blossoms in full bloom on it. And it was good, and it was beautiful. And the second picture was a picture of Brooke Shields. Also good. Also beautiful. And I said, okay, universe, what's up? He said, well, here's your answer. And in my puzzled state, the universe had given me a puzzle. And when you match these 2 pictures and what they have in common, you'll have your answer about change. So I got to play with that one for a little bit. And I don't have time, but I wouldn't bother you with the process. It was quite fun. And I was going through the archives in my mind and pulling up all the pictures and files that I have stored in there. And there's 2 graphics of cherry blossoms and about 406 of Brooke Shields. And I'm running through all these, and then click, boom, I found them, and I got it. And so as we continue through here, I want you to pretend like you're me and you don't know anything about what's going on. That's not a nice way to say that. The nice way is to say, I'd like you to have an open mind as we go forward, but that is just too broad. Just pretend like you don't know anything for the next few minutes. Like any exercise, this will be a lot easier for some of us than others. But let's go ahead and go. Now, we talk a lot about chickens and eggs and which one came first. And another example of that is cherries and cherry pits. And Where do cherry pits come from? And where do cherries come from? But imagine you don't know any of that, and a visitor comes through your village, because this is like 1800 or something, and he gives you a present, and it's a cherry pit, and you don't know what that is. And you're like, wow, and he said, this is a very special gift, and I'm going to give this to you. And here are the instructions on how to take care of it. And on a warm day, you put this into the ground, you water that, you weed that, you take care of that, and then it's going to reward you greatly for many years with something amazing. And you're like, okay. So on the warm spring day, you take and you plant this seed down into the ground. Now, a cherry seed will sit in the ground for 3 to 4 years sometimes until all the conditions are right and it starts to sprout and grow. And every day you're taking care of this tree and you're watering it. You're watering this hole in the ground where you put the seed. And it starts to sprout and it starts to come up. And it takes about 4 years to get to a height and a maturity where it can do anything. And every year in the spring, green leaves appear. And every year in the fall, leaves turn brown and they fall to the ground. And then we've got leaves, and then we don't have leaves, and we have leaves, and we don't have leaves. And then one day, out of nowhere, boom, this tree is covered with pink blossoms. And that is the most amazing thing. And with all the work that I've done to take care of this tree, here's my reward. And it's this beautiful manifestation, and here are all these cherry blossoms. And it's great. And I call everybody over and look at this. Isn't this a wonderful thing? And they say, yes, this is a wonderful thing. We have never seen anything like this. And then in about a week, all the cherry blossoms fall off the tree. They wither, they dry in the sun, and they're all gone. And it's like, I love that. What did I do? And so I look and I say, hey, I finally got to the reward. Did I water it too much? Did it get too much sun? Maybe the weather wasn't right. I don't know what happened that I lost this wonderful thing that I had. I have a feeling some of you aren't pretending, and you know that those blossoms fall off the tree for a reason. Because it's not a cherry blossom tree, it's a cherry tree. And everywhere there was a cherry blossom, now there's a node, and out of that node comes 2 or 3 stems, and somehow the magic of the universe comes through the ground, through the cherry tree, and it creates these cherries for about 250 years. That's amazing and wonderful, yeah. And that's cherry blossoms. Now, Brooke Shields, an actress in the early 80s, she was in a movie called The Blue Lagoon. And I remember back then that this movie was basically marketed as, 2 hours of Brooke Shields walking around half-dressed in a tropical paradise. Maybe that's what actually happened. Maybe I was just 15. I don't know. But that message spoke to me. Did you see this movie? No. I did. 6 times. I did. And about the 3rd time, I saw a plot, a story. And so I would, watch some of it. And what this is it's an interesting movie that 2 children, about 7 to 9, are on an ocean voyage. And it's in this big sailboat, and it is the 1800s this time for sure, and they're in a big sailboat and they're crossing the ocean. And at one point early on in the film, there's a fire that breaks out, and the boat is going down. And these 2 kids are stranded on the back of the boat with a sailor, and they jump in a lifeboat, and they're out on the ocean. And fog and smoke are all over the place, and they get lost. And then somewhere, this sailboat blows up. So it's totally gone. And they are out in this lifeboat without water, without provisions, without anything for several days. They find land. The sailor gets them to this tropical paradise island. They jump out. He makes them a house. He shows them how to eat. He shows them how to make fires. Does a whole bunch of things. And after a few months, the sailor dies. And these two kids are stranded on the island by themselves. And there they live, and life is pretty easy. It provides for them very well. They spend their day fishing and playing on the beach and climbing trees and having fun. And time goes by. And the kids grow up. And the changes come. And their bodies start changing. And they don't know why. And they can't control it. And there's an incredible amount of guilt and of shame. And they're angry with each other because it's like, you are changing and you're not supposed to be this. I don't like this about you. I don't like this about me, and I can't control this, and I don't know what's going on. And it continues and it goes on. And then as time passes, they kind of have a change of heart. They kind of decide that they like each other. Some of this is going okay. They talk about this funny feeling inside that they have that's slightly uncomfortable but slightly feels good. They engage in what I think in church we call a co-creation process. And then she starts getting incredibly hungry, and she's eating all the time. And she starts gaining weight. And he starts giving her a bad time because she's changing and she's out of control. And she's moody, and she's getting fat. Like very fat. One evening she takes his hand and she puts it on her belly and she says, "Look at this, feel this." And he's like, "Oh my gosh, how are you doing that?" And she says, "I'm not doing that." And he says, "Oh, who else could be doing that?" She said, "This is not me doing this." Well, a little more time passes, and in classic Hollywood style, after the easiest labor ever, she delivers a 4-month-old baby who is just cute. Oh, I forgot the most traumatic part. I just get carried away in the fun stuff. But can you pretend, can you imagine that you don't know what's going on when these changes of life are coming? I don't know. I'm somewhat familiar. But I imagine that the onset of menstruation is a traumatic event. When you plan for it, when you anticipate it, when you are supported, and other people tell you it's right and normal. When that pops up out of nowhere for no reason, there's a little bit of trauma involved. There's a little bit of stress. What is happening and why can't I control these things? And then it goes away, and then it comes back. And it just becomes part of your life. But in the meantime, first time, it's got to feel like the end of the world. And in a way, I think it feels that way because it is. It's the end of the world, and it's transferred into another one. It's this cocoon that Linda talked about. The end of the world is what the rest of the world calls a butterfly. Well, they get off the island, and happily ever after, and that's that movie. Now, the lesson about change is this. I am not an astronomer. But I can tell you that the world is turning, and that in 8 hours it will be dark outside. I am not a meteorologist, but I can tell you that as the days get longer, and in 30 days from now, everything is going to be warmer than it is today. I am not a horticulturist, but I knew the cherry blossoms were coming off the tree way before the seed went into the soil. As you've heard earlier, I am not a doctor. But I can predict puberty way before pregnancy. And so knowing all these things gives me a sense that I'm in control. And because this brain works the way it does, I know everything that I know, and oftentimes I think I know everything, and when I don't know something, something is wrong. And it's not. As we look through that, and what we know about change is that change, these phases we call change, are programmed into the process from the start, from the very start. So I know that the appearance of cherry blossoms is a good thing, and that the disappearance of cherry blossoms is also a good thing. What does it look like, our next step in evolution? What does our world look like as it grows and becomes? What is the shift and the shake that we take to get into the next level of consciousness? Yeah, we're not pretending anymore, are we? No, we don't know. That doesn't mean it is not known. I love the passage in the Desiderata by Max Ehrmann, and he says, whether or not it is apparent to you, undoubtedly, the universe is unfolding exactly as it should. Therefore, be at peace with God and hold peace in your soul. And I like to do that. I like to do that. I like that thought. And being interested in change is what we want to do. I left a tip in the newsletter that should have been 3. Again, that's just how my mind works. But when we accept change and look at change, it is easier to move through. It's easier to allow that to happen. So accept change, that change is coming in our life, and change is everywhere all the time. Anticipate change. We know change is going to stretch us. We're going to get pulled one way and the other. So the more flexible we are and the more prepared we are, the more we're ready to adapt to change. We want to take the resources that we have, our time, our money, our energy, and make sure there's a little bit extra for those times when we need to zig and zag. We want to embrace change by initiating it ourselves. Create a new adventure where we go into the unknown. I talked about a couple ways in the newsletter, but one that is really easy to do, this is not a big thing. Intentionally go into a restaurant. Get seated. When the server comes and hands you a menu, hand it back. And they'll say, oh, you're ready. Yes, I am ready. And they say, what would you like? And you say, food, please. They're like, but what do you want? Surprise me. Whatever the first thought in your head is, please bring me that. I promise to pay and I promise not to complain. And see what happens. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. It's not wasted money. You're not paying for the food. You're paying for the experience of living through that. Try it. I do this, and it, yeah, no. You're going to get a big plate of jalapenos, that's why. And that could happen. Another thing to do with change, sit down and look at it. Turn and face the change. Was that David Bowie? Describe it. Don't spend time describing your emotion. Don't spend time describing your worries. What is actually changing? What is happening? How does it affect me? How does it affect others? What things are better for me now that weren't before? What things are more, require more caution? I liked Rick's song earlier today of changing for the better. I like that. And that's the song you'd expect from Rick because he's such an optimist. Nice guy. And that's what he calls change. Other people call change bad. Worse, it's this bad ritual that we go through to get to the thing that we want. And change comes, and it doesn't come greater, and it doesn't come better, and it doesn't come worse, but it always comes greater. That's why it's important to base ourselves in spiritual principle. The principles that govern the kiddie coaster at the amusement park are the same ones that control the roller coaster at the amusement park. And it prepares us for the hills are higher, the drops are steeper, and the curves are tighter. And we call it more fun because it adds to our experience. Another thing you can do with change as an exercise is look back. They say never look back. And again, it's not about your worries. It's not about your emotions. Reminisce. And with nostalgia, look back at the change. Nobody in this room got here today without surviving change. You've been through this before. You've done this before and probably have come out on top of that. Your experience is greater. Your joys are greater. Your potential for pain is much greater. But life is preparing you and bringing you greater expanded experience. Growing up as a small boy, I loved grape juice with breakfast. When I went to junior high school, there was a soda machine and I had a grape soda every day just because I could. Now I still enjoy my relationship with grapes, just in a very different liquid. I don't get to have it every day, but when I do, it is a greater and more expanded experience. And I have no use for grape soda anymore. Looking back, in preparation for today, I thought it would be a good idea to rewatch The Blue Lagoon. The sacrifices I make for this community. And I queued it up, and I remember, and things are coming up and going, and the first 6 times I watched this was in the spring of my life, and it brought out quite a lot of feeling and emotion in me. And so that was what's in my head and my memory, and that's what I thought, okay, this will be, we'll get a few details out of this. 40 years later, in the fall of my life, Grandpa Curt's on the couch watching The Blue Lagoon. And the emotions come out of him. Oh, well, look at you. Now, how adorable is that? You kids are just too cute. Who wants some ice cream? I saw a whole different movie. It was wonderful. I recommend it to anybody. But I got to have that experience because I changed. And because I changed, I had new experience, deeper, richer appreciation for life. What it is, what it's about, and what we get to do while we're here. Last, if none of this helps. If I can remember what it was. Oh, it's the opposite of look back. I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth, but we're hitting this thing from both sides. And it is to be present. Meditate, be present, because when everything changes, today is the day to enjoy what we have. By being present in the world where we are, doing what we can do with what we have, we will have a deep appreciation of gratitude that connects us with Spirit. This is not me. This is something I read on Facebook, so you know it's true. And it was called rite of passage. Native American tribe, their rite of passage was that a young man, soon-to-be man, would be led in the forest or the wilderness, and his father took this young boy, his son, into the woods at night. And he found a rock, and he said, sit down. And he tied a blindfold on him. And he said, it is your duty to sit here until the sun comes up. Sit here and be still. And when you hear the birds sing in the morning, you can take your blindfold off. And the boy sat. And I don't know if you've been in the woods before at night, but I've been through a similar exercise with some Boy Scouts, and then some other people went around and made really scary noises just because. And the boy sat there, and sometimes he would shake, and sometimes he would try to nod off, but finally, the birds were singing. And when they did, he pulled his blindfold off, and there not far away was his father, who had been watching over him the whole night. When change gets to be too much and there's too much of this and that, remember, you are not alone. We are not alone. As we enter into our wall of prayer, we enter into a greater appreciation of love, the love that is already here. But as we enter in, we're going to leave our details and our distractions of life behind until there is only love. And in that richness, some of us will come up for a nice 1-minute miracle as a practitioner gives voice to the help and aid and guidance and learning that is available in this love and in this source. We're going to enter into prayer knowing that life is good, knowing that love is all around, and this life comes to me and through me, and I find it in the core of my being. I come and I meet you and I greet you and I see it in you, and you reflect it back to me and you pull it out of me until our distractions are gone and faded, and we realize that the love in me is the love in you, and it's the love in all of us. So right now I know that that love is available, that it's here to support and guide us, and whether we need a hand up or maybe just a kick in the pants, guidance and direction is ours. Let's take a moment and know the love that is. Breathe in that love, and let's fill this room with love and support of each other and support of ourselves. Love flowing through this room. Let's take a deep breath. Share that love with the world. I know that I live in a world of love. I know that love is mine. I know myself as that love, and I receive you in the love that we are. The light and love that we share today lets me know that it is real, and that others are blessed by signals and signs of love in their life today. This love heals, builds, grows, and strengthens us under every condition. And I give thanks for the love and the life that it brings, and the law that makes it all so, as together we say, and so it is.